I'm going to be explaining how many training sessions that you should be performing in a week to elevate your boxing performance. Hello everybody, welcome to Boxing Science. In this video, I'm going to be sharing with you some programming strategies to make sure that you're organising your training week effectively to optimise performance during these sessions and also recover adequately. This is something that we get asked a lot on across our YouTube Q&A sessions or on social media, is how to program effectively. You've got all these different training modalities and all these training adaptations that a boxer needs to train for. We need to improve technical performance. We need to spar to get our sparring fitness. We also need to do our running, conditioning, recovery runs, and also our strength training as well. So it's a lot of things that an athlete or coach needs to manage correctly to make sure that they're doing enough of it, but also not overtraining at the same time. The reason why we're doing this video is because I shared this infographic quite often on Boxing Science Instagram and also on Wilson_Boxing Science Instagram. It's really popular because it just clearly outlines how many sessions that an athlete should be doing per week. In this video, I'm going to be explaining a little bit more about the rationale behind that, but then also showing how that is put into a weekly plan. So first of all, we're going to talk about boxing. Now, boxing is your bread and butter. This is what's really important. Obviously, at Boxing Science, we focus on physical preparation, but we need to make sure that we're improving our technical performance as well. So this always takes precedence in terms of training frequency. We'd recommend athletes, whether amateur or professional, to do 4 or 5 boxing sessions per week. And this is mixed between sparring, so maybe 2 or 3 sparring sessions per week, and then you want to be doing all the technical work on the pads, the bags, your shadow boxing, etc. And we're going to be talking a little bit later how we distribute them harder days and then sparring days across the week to make sure that you're optimizing performance in each session. Next, we've got conditioning, so high intensity conditioning. This is where we're either doing sprint interval training, muscle buffering, or we're targeting red zone adaptations. And from this, we want to be doing either 2 or 3 conditioning sessions per week, especially for professional boxers at a high level, want to be doing more towards 3 sessions per week. And the reason why we're going towards like quite a high number in terms of hard running sessions is because it takes a certain amount of sessions to create an adaptation. So for example, the sprint interval training, we need either 9 to 12 sessions on this. So we can get them adaptations from sprint interval training block, doing 3 sessions a week over 4 weeks. We know from the research that this is the amount of sessions that you need for a significant improvement in performance. When we're talking about muscle buffering and central adaptations, that number actually becomes a lot more. So we need to be quite frequent training high intensity conditioning across the week to make sure that we accumulate enough sessions to make a meaningful change to our physical performance. For strength sessions, again, is between 2 to 3. Ideally, going towards 2. Now, the reason why is because boxing and your conditioning takes precedence in terms of physical performance in boxing. Strength training is really important, but it's not as important as these two here. We're not wanting to do too much strength training to take away from our performance in these 2 areas here. We know from the minimal standpoint, you want to be doing 2 sessions per week. Now, if I'm working with an athlete that has a specific strength target, maybe they're quite fit already and they need to try and improve their strength as an area for improvement, we probably might push them up to 3 sessions a week, but we'd probably do a lower intensity session on that 3rd session, maybe an assistance circuit, maybe a speed session, or even a hypertrophy session. So if an athlete is looking to put on muscle mass, they might want to put in an extra session in there. So for example, when working with heavyweight fighters, they're more able and possibly needing that extra strength session in order to gain muscular hypertrophy. And then we've got active recovery. Active recovery is our kind of zone 2, zone 3 training, where we're looking to improve aerobic endurance, bringing down that kind of training intensity and looking for training volume, and also looking to expend energy, which will help the weight making process. We want to be doing 1 to 2 sessions on this. We're not too concerned about doing too much of this. Getting at least 1 active recovery session in there, that's really important. 2, if an athlete is maybe deloading or might have a harder week. So for example, if their boxing sessions are quite intense, they might increase their sparring from 8 to 12 rounds, or might be doing 3 spars a week instead of 2 spars a week. We might drop one of these conditioning sessions here, the harder ones, and put an extra active recovery session in there. So that's how many sessions per week. Like I said, it is a range because it does differ for different people in terms of their training availability, their training standards, and also their training goals. Like if you're an amateur boxer that might be working or at college or at school, look at this lesser end here. If you're a professional boxer, you want to be looking at this higher end here, and also working towards training goals. If you're looking for muscular hypertrophy, you might be wanting to do an extra strength session instead of doing all your conditioning sessions. That's how many training sessions that you should be doing in a week. Now, in this next section, I'm going to be explaining how to distribute these sessions across a training week. Okay, so now I'm going to talk to you about how to organize your training week. So we start off with a blank canvas. You got your days, you got AM, PM, and also this one at the bottom, which is load. So load is basically how hard that day is in terms of volume. This is really important to make sure that you're having hard days followed up by lighter or recovery days. We'll look at this. So with the load, we'll do like a little hypothetical bar where we've got harder days, we've got lighter days, harder days. Whether you train on a Saturday or Sunday, this might be a rest day, and then this will be like a medium day. So this is rated from hard and high volume to low volume recovery, active recovery. So with this put together in terms of like harder days and lighter days, this helps an athlete get through that training week without overreaching, and also being able to optimize performance towards the back end of the week. So we start off with a medium heavy day to start building up to it. Heavy days on Tuesdays and Thursdays, which is basically we've got a recovery day that's sandwiched between that, dropping that load to make sure that you're reducing that accumulative fatigue so you can push on for the rest of the week. Now we're going to look at boxing. Most of the boxers that we work with train boxing training in the morning. Sometimes this changes. Some athletes do all afternoon. Some athletes do morning, some afternoons. So it's quite hard to give you the perfect example here so that matches your schedule. Just for now, what we're going to do is presume that this athlete is going to be boxing Monday to Friday every morning. So once we highlight, right, this is where boxing is, we now need to see when the sparring is. And obviously sparring sometimes is quite hard to maintain its consistency over a training camp because it all depends on how your athlete is feeling or how you are feeling as an athlete in terms of fatigue. You want to be sparring on fresh days, so sometimes you might want to be putting in a rest and sparring a little bit later on. And also it's hard to get in the sparring partners consistently on the same day. But in an ideal world, what I'd say to do is to spar on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Then start putting in the conditioning sessions. So conditioning, I'd say it'd go for a Tuesday, a Friday, and depending on what an athlete wants to do, whether they want to rest on a Saturday or Sunday, they'd also do a conditioning session across the weekend. This athlete, we're going to do the conditioning session on a Sunday. Now, the thought process behind this is if an athlete is sparring on a Tuesday, we're not wanting to fatigue them too much on the Monday with a really heavy kind of loading day here. So if we do conditioning after sparring, which is, not ideal, they push to quite a hard day, but we know for certain that this is going to be one of their hardest days of the week. And also it's followed up by recovery day. So we're pushing the body hard here, but we're also allowing ourselves to recover on that next day. Also, we do conditioning on the Friday because I'm thinking, right, conditioning sessions are the hardest sessions to recover from, one of the most physically demanding. We're not wanting to have the conditioning sessions affect too much of the boxing. So if I do a conditioning session at the back end of the week on the Friday, I know that an athlete has got days to recover before going into their new training week. Again, this conditioning session on a Sunday, because we've got no boxing, isn't going to be as physically taxing, having an effect on the rest of the training week. So I know if we kind of backload the conditioning sessions here, this is really going to be beneficial to optimizing performance in the conditioning sessions, but also optimizing recovery. So we're smashing it in our boxing training. So that makes it quite easy to then look at the strength training. Put the strength training in on the Monday. and the strength training in on the Thursday. And then for active recovery, that comes in on the Wednesday, because this helps reduce this load here to help boost recovery and optimize performance towards the back end of the week. So that's how I'd organize a training week. Like I said, this is what the ideal is. This might not be specific to you. You might have different training availability or work or college commitments. You know, your gym availability as well might be like more afternoon sessions, or might be a mixed bag. So it might be quite difficult for you to take this example into your training schedule. And if you're wanting a little bit more help with this, we're actually opening up a new service, consultancy call service, where we can have a look at your training, any kind of particular questions that you may have, and how to organize your training and everything like that. Rather than us coming in and giving you a full program, we can help kind of tweak a few things. And that's not only with your strength training, but also with your nutrition as well. So the link is in the description for more information about this. And if you're wanting to ask like any questions about what this consultancy call might offer you, you can send me an email at dannywilson@boxingscience.co.uk. Okay guys, so thank you very much for watching. This kind of video is always quite popular. So if you're new to the channel, we've got way more content that's coming up and way more content to go and visit. So hit that subscribe button. If you like this video, help support the channel by clicking that like button and sharing it with your peers and your coaches and athletes that you work with as well. Okay guys, thank you very much for watching. Hopefully see you on the next video at Boxing Science.